Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story, Holder of Sound. In any city, in any country, go to any mental institution or halfway house you can get yourself to. Upon arrival, walk straight to the front desk and request an audience with the holder of sound. When you speak, you may realize that you cannot hear yourself or any noises around you, and that the receptionist will neither look up nor respond to your request. If this isn't the case, leave the building and don't return, for your selection of institution was a poor one. If indeed all is silent around you, look to the left of the desk to find a hallway that wasn't present prior to your arrival. Head steadily down the hallway, as focused straight ahead and locked on the door at the far end. As you progress, your sense of hearing will gradually return in screams of agony, as well as one-sided conversations that only the clinically insane could think of, will fill your ears if at any time the endless babble ceases. Cover your ears and shout with all your might. What has been granted mustn't be lost. If the voices come back, consider yourself lucky that you'll be allowed to see another day outside of a room padded with the innards of past secret. Continue on down the hall until you arrive at the door. Knock once and push the door open before receiving an answer. Inside will be a completely empty room, save for a small cot in the back. Sitting on the cot will be a young man of perhaps 19. Bloody bandages where his ears were. He will be sitting there, rocking back and forth, mumbling to himself. Approach him and pull the bandages away from either side of his head, leaning close to the bloody pulp to ask a single question. Ask anything other than "will we understand?" and you will suffer the same fate as this man. Once the question has been asked, a rush of future events surrounding each of the objects will flood your mind. Horrific detail of every unjust death and injury at the seeker's hands will play through your mind over, pummeling your fragile psyche with countless waves of despair. If you keep your sanity throughout the visions, you will find the young man, dead and bleeding on the cot, an ear clutched in his hand. Take it from him, leave the asylum, and never return. The ear is object 210 of 538. May the truth of the objects never reach your ears. Previous next. The second story, Holder of the Eastern Seas. The wise seeker will bring the White King's sword and perhaps other objects as well, for this is a trying task. At any museum within view of the Atlantic Ocean, ask the curator if he can show you any remnants of the Holder of the Eastern Seas. He should take you into a previously non-existent room deep in the museum, which has a great display of Valhalla, the Vikings' afterlife. He will ask about that sword of yours, for he has had his eye on it since you entered. Tell him something, but make sure you mention that the White King is ready to defend his honor, for if you do not, every stuffed man, woman and beast in the museum will come to tear you asunder. If you do, he will shove you into the Valhalla display, and you will land on a wide field, standing with 7 Viking comrades, facing a horde of thousands here. Only the truest warrior will prevail. Fight alongside the Vikings as hardened, as long as you can. You must outlive your companions, or everything was for naught. Once your allies are dead, keep fighting, no matter how hopeless the battle. Soon, invariably, you will be struck down. Ram your own blade through your heart before you die, and feel the slow, creeping blood of death crawl through your veins, and watch the Valkyries lift your soul. You have died. When you awaken, you're still dead. However, by dying as mentioned, you have been sent to Valhalla, the pantheon of gods and men. If you wish to escape the pain of the objects, you need not worry. You are safe. Should you choose to accept death upon seeing the vacuers carry them off to this beautiful, peaceful bastion, many have decided that they've done enough. However, if you choose to go on, you must find Odin himself, bow respectfully, and ask to see the holder of the eastern seas, as reverently as you can. Odin may deem you worthy, and take you down to see the holder. That holder is in the middle of the earth, bound to a rock, with a serpent dripping venom eternally into his eye. That holder is the god Loki. You may ask only one question of Loki, or the snake will give him respite long enough to devour you. Ask him, what part does Valhalla play in this? What do they have to do with Odin's kingdom? He will describe to you Ragnarok in all its detail. Then he will tell you why it will happen, and what he has to do with it. Finally, he will tell you the second-hand suffering the earth will feel as Ragnarok rages on. However, somewhere, he will speak of a place where they were made. When he is done, take his loot. He needs it no more. Loki's loot is object to 109 out of 538. Getting here was the easy part. Can you drag yourself back from death? Previous next. The third story. Order of peace. In any city, in any country, go to any mental institution or halfway house you can get yourself to. Storm up to the front desk with a look of rage on your face, and immediately dim, and to see a person who calls itself the holder of peace. The attendant will recoil and ask you to speak softly. Do not comply with his request. If anything, speak louder, for the anger in your voice is all that keeps the chains locked on the door behind the desk. Keep the anger in your voice. The attendant will duck under his desk, but point with a quivering finger down a hall to the right that was not there before. Immediately turn and stomp off down the hall. Do not look over your shoulder, for should the attendant catch you, and he will casually lean back and flip the lock off the door behind him. Walk until you find it, or with a beautiful mother of pearl in a design, throw it open, but take the rage off your face before entering. The ones inside do not appreciate such hunger. Walk in with a peaceful look across your face. You are in a beautiful, open-air temple, with ivy curling up the marble pillars, and exquisite mosaics embroidering the walls. The door will lock behind you. Do not try to open it, for it never will, and the monks wandering about in beige robes will do anything to get you to stay, even if it means your death. Meander around no matter what language you speak. The monks will speak it till they will be friendly, and all of them would love to chat. But you must politely decline. Tell them you must speak with the head of the order. Eventually you will be directed to a man sitting at a chessboard, the temple's abbot. The figure across from him is hooded and wearing armor. Do not attempt to speak to the hooded figure, or your death will be far worse than any vision of hell that man could conjure up. Instead, turn to the man in the now familiar beige robes. The game is one move away from checkmate. Bow and ask nicely, why do they gather, Father? He will open his mouth as if to speak, but the figure across from him will let out a demonic howl of rage and draw a sword. It is beautifully crafted, but will seem to be somehow stained with an unthinkable evil. With a yell, the figure will kick you down and begin systematically slaughtering the other monks. They will try to fight back, but they have only staves, and the sword the madman wields is so sharp that it slices through the pillars like a knife through butter. As you are watching this, the abbot will make the final move in the game. The man in armor will swing around, and then run at you with the sword upraised. If you were rude or did something wrong, you will be rent apart at the atomic level by the blade of the sword, and the pain will never cease. However, if you were polite, the abbot will step in front of you and jam the Black King into the right eye of the warrior. I no heed or sympathy as he falls to the ground screaming, or the abbot will whirl and do the same to you with the White King. Instead, focus on the abbot, who has now turned around to face you. He will tell you why they gathered his a long tale, so fraught with bloodshed and horror that it may well rupture your mind. But if you survive its telling, you will reach under the table with the chessboard and pass you a scabbard, richly jeweled and inlaid with gold. Though you have never seen it before, you instinctively know that it matches the sword the warrior was wielding a moment ago. Do not hesitate, take it. Walk over, pick up the madman's sword, wipe it, and sheath it, buckle it on as well. You will soon have need of it. Move to leave, but before you do, the good father will halt you and gesture towards the face of the warrior, whose hood has fallen back. He was handsome, but pay no heed to that. The one thing you should be focusing on is the fact that the Black King is gone. Look up at the abbot, who will nod and say one word: regicide. A flash of light will blind you, and when your sight returns, you will be standing on the curb. The blocks down from the asylum, step back onto the sidewalk. You don't want to create an accident. The sword you now wield once belonged to the White King, and is object number 45 of 538. The Black King is running from the scene of his murder, and the White King's sword longs for vengeance. Previous next.